And now give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
Merci.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to thank the French presidency for convening this high-level meeting that enables us to break the deafening silence surrounding, in this council, the Palestinian question, as if it were a foregone conclusion. This meeting perhaps will be a welcome break, a break from the oppressive silence of this council, this unacceptable inertia from this council for more than a year now in the face of the Palestinian tragedy. I just want to cite two figures. Over the past 2 months, we have seen the death of 2,273 Palestinians and almost 6,000 injured.
President, I would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Secretary General for his briefing and for his tireless efforts to ease the suffering of the Palestinian people and to bring an end to the relentless Israeli aggression against a defenseless civilian population. These efforts, while deeply appreciated, have regrettably not shaken the intransigence of the Israeli occupying power, which remains determined to pursue its ongoing deadly campaign. A campaign of genocide, a campaign of ethnic cleansing, a campaign of collective punishment, and of systematic destruction of Palestinian life and livelihood. Worse still, the international community and this very Security Council failed to extend the level of support required to make this effort impactful. The absence of collective action, the lack of accountability, and the double standards have emboldened the Israeli occupier to act with total impunity, total immunity. Today, we find ourselves at a critical juncture, and we must ask ourselves, when will our word be translated into action? When will the resolution of this very Security Council be finally enforced? When will international law cease to be a tool selectively applied? When will the dignity, the rights, humanity of the Palestinian people finally be respected? Mr. President, for over 18 months, the people of Palestine, particularly in Gaza, have endured unspeakable horrors, mass killings, mass starvation, mass displacement, and mass destruction. Abandoned and defenseless, the Palestinian people face one of the most ruthless occupying forces in the world. The international community failure to uphold its moral and legal responsibilities have emboldened Israel to normalize and even promote the crime of mass deportation as a strategy. Let us be clear, this is not a war. This is organized, systematic annihilation. Despite the horrific figures well known to everyone, some still refuse to see the reality and to condemn the indiscriminate attacks on the Palestinian people. The reality is blatantly reflected in reports from the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, which confirm that 36 recent Israeli attacks, all those killed were women and children. Yes, all of them. This pattern points to either indiscriminate bombing or the deliberate targeting of civilians. What justification can possibly explain these atrocities? What new narrative will the Israeli occupying power spin? That every tent bombed was a Hamas center for command? A Hamas center for command? That every child buried alive was a threat? The deliberate targeting of Palestinian civilians under the direction of the highest political and military Israeli authorities is evident. It is well documented. This is not collateral damage. It is a policy. These are war crimes. These are crimes against humanity, and they necessitate accountability and justice. Mr. President, international humanitarian organizations confirm that Gaza is experiencing now the worst humanitarian catastrophe since October 2023. This is one of the worst humanitarian failures of our generation, of the international community. Every single person in Gaza is now relying on humanitarian aid to survive. And that lifeline has been completely cut off since a blockade of all aid supplies was imposed by the Israeli authorities for almost 2 months. The World Food Programme has declared that its food stocks in Gaza are now fully exhausted. But the Israeli Minister of Defense shamelessly declared that, and I quote, blocking humanitarian aid is an intentional tactics, one of the Israel's pressure tools on Hamas. What kind of world are we living in when the use of starvation as weapon of war is publicly promoted, publicly assumed, and they suffer no consequences? Israeli occupying forces are not fighting a war. They are trying to erase people. We, in the Security Council, we should impose an immediate ceasefire before it is too late. Mr. President, situation in West Bank is not less alarming. Settlement expansion continues at a record pace, with entire communities uprooted, armed settler militias protected and empowered by the Israeli authorities roam freely, attacking Palestinians' families, burning homes, destroying fields and places of worship. And Palestinians are being forcibly displaced in broad light. Sacred sites, including Al-Aqsa Mosque, are regularly stormed by extremist settlers, accompanied and protected by Israeli police. Entire neighborhoods are now being turned into military zones. Arbitrary arrests, home demolition, and daily raids have become grim routine in the West Bank. In Jenin, in Nablus, in Khalil, and Tulkarem, Palestinian lives are under constant threat. This is a strategy of domination, a strategy of fragmentation, a strategy of humiliation. The Israeli occupation is trying to suffocate the Palestinian prisons, to diminish their dignity, to erase their identity, and finally, ultimately, to rewrite history of Palestine. Today, the notion of a Palestinian state feels more like a fading illusion. But, Mr. President, despite of occupation, despite waves of dispossession, and despite the immense suffering they endure, the Palestinian people have never surrendered. They continue to cling to their homeland, to their culture, and to their legitimate aspiration. They have learned from history that exile is not a solution, that justice denied is not justice lost, and that liberation may be delayed, but it is inevitable. with the support of the international community and through steadfast resilience, the Palestinian people will achieve their inalienable right to self-determination. They will establish their independent and sovereign state with Al-Quds Sharif as its eternal capital. I thank you.
Je remercie le représentant permanent de l'aide.
I thank the permanent representative of Algeria for that statement.